gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast.
Oh, yeah.
We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where Alan and I were lucky enough to sit down with our good friend, Coach Patrick V. Today, for episode number 283, we are going to do a 5-minute clinic on recognizing your patterns. And just a fair warning, we are giggly.
We are very giggly today. So before we jump into this episode, I want you to go to topnotchlive2020.com. That landing page will bring you to a place where you can buy your tickets. January 25th, 8 speakers, 2 Q&A panels. We got Brant Pinvidic, Mark Metry, Britt Frank, Shauna Pelton, Tori Aletto, Kevin, myself, and Joanna DePena are all speaking at this event. Folks, when Kevin and I look back at our journey over the last 3 years, the things that did make the biggest shifts in our mentality and in our associations, really, our circles, are these networking events. So please be there. It's at UMass Lowell Inn and Conference Center. Again, January 25th, www.topnotchlive2020.com.
Yes. When we were at Influencer Academy, that's when I locked in the idea of having high-ticket podcast clients.
Right.
And that is now a real thing. So that's all because of a networking event. Also, as promised, I have been far more active in Hyperconscious Nation. I did a post last week where I asked where people found us, and we had 100 and something comments. So that was awesome. That was awesome. So if you want to be supported by people who think like you, who want what you want out of life, and there is no judgment, join us in our private Facebook group, and we will help you become the most hyper-conscious version of yourself.
I just want to say thank you real quick to everyone who referred us to someone else.
Yes.
Because that's what we found. Most people heard of the podcast through somebody else as a recommendation. So thank you so much for doing that. We appreciate you.
Yes. And also, before we do it, Tiff sent us a screenshot of, she posted, somebody posted, what is your favorite podcast in a Facebook group that has 275,000 people. And Brooklyn said the Hyperconscious Podcast, and Odette, who we met in Florida, is in that group too, and then they went back and forth and shared pictures of us.
Awesome.
So we are so appreciative of you guys, because without you, we would just be two dudes talking into a microphone. So without you guys, this wouldn't be a thing. So recognizing your patterns.
Yes.
You want to go first? With your drawing over there?
I've got a drawing. As a matter of fact, Kevin took a picture of me and tagged me on Instagram
Picasso.
if you want to see me drawing on the whiteboard. So the drawing is simple. I often say I want to pave a new runway. What do I mean by that? So I picture a plane and a runway, and paving a new runway is a new system of success. Now, when you have a system of success, it's a bunch of daily tasks, as David Meltzer would say, the legs that feed the lion. When you start to focus on doing the small things every day that make the biggest difference, you start to You start to stack the small wins and gain momentum.
Brutal.
When you gain momentum, the plane begins to take off. Problems arise, and that's adversity, but you overcome them because you've got confidence and you've got momentum. So you start to rise. Eventually, you get to a new height, which brings new opportunities, and here's what tends to happen to me. I tend to get overly confident and think that I can handle more than I actually can handle. So, for example, Kevin and I wanted to do 6 events in 2020, and we set that intention. We have since dialed that back to 4 events. It's going to be 1 per quarter, Hyperconscious Live. But the reason why is because of how much it's required of us to host these events, whether it's getting all the speakers together, getting the staff together, getting volunteers, DJs, you name it, and then also filling the room as well and promoting the event. It's just a lot of work, and we don't know if we are fully capable of doing 6, at least successfully. So now we're going to dial it back to 4. I think that's more congruent. And the last thing we want is for this podcast to fall, because we're doing more than we have one-on-one clients. We're doing more as well. So that said, that's a perfect example of when you rise higher in your own self-belief and self-confidence, you start to see opportunities you normally wouldn't see. The problem is that you start to pile more onto your plate than you can currently eat. You bite off more than you can chew, and then usually there's a crash, because you try to do too much too quickly. And so, just here, finishing up, focus on the small wins brings momentum. Momentum brings challenges that create adversity, which is the lift, and then you overcome those because you have momentum, which brings new heights. New heights brings new opportunities that you would never have had before, and new opportunities means you stop focusing on the thing that originally got you the wins and the momentum, so then you crash. The cool thing about the crash is, number 1, it will humble you and bring you back to your why and your heartstring, and number 2, you now have new distinctions about what made the biggest difference. So the next runway you pave can be more effective.
Wow. Okay. Strong work.
Thanks, man.
Strong work. So I'm going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. I actually did a post of it recently, and I think a lot of people, I would say most people, deal with this, and it is one of the struggles that I've had to overcome in order to get where I am, and it's something that I'll have to continue to overcome in order to get where I want to go. So when I was in Florida, Alan and I lived in Florida last December for a month, and the reason we went down there was to create online training programs that we were going to put on the website. Mine is there. Alan's got lost in the abyss. But mine is up on the site right now. And that was the first time, like, we hadn't been doing YouTube for that long.
Right.
So that was my first time by myself sitting down and recording an hour-and-a-half program. That was my first time ever creating a program.
Right.
That was my first time ever taking everything I've learned and trying to share it with others. First time ever putting it up on a website. Like, there were so many things that...
First time ever having a website?
First time ever having a website, right. Right. So there were so many things that I had never had before, but my problem was I compared my final product to Brendan Burchard's final product because he's who I learned from. So we had a program that T-Mac and I purchased that taught us about, like, how to make an online training program. And I think a lot of people do that. If you're comparing, like, say you have a passion to play music. If you're comparing yourself to what's on the radio, it might be a painful experience.
Right.
It's probably going to be a painful experience because the people on the radio are the best in the world. And that doesn't mean you can't get there eventually, but it means that if this is the first time you've ever written and recorded a song, it's probably not going to be that great.
Oh, it's almost definitely not going to be that great.
And my training program wasn't bad. It was good for what I was capable of at the time.
Right.
So the lesson that I want to leave you guys with is, if you do something, I want you to compare it to you. Compare it to you a year ago. Compare it to you 6 months ago. Compare it to you last week. Don't compare it to the best in the world, especially if that's going to stop you from trying in the future, especially if that's going to take a chunk out of your self-esteem, your, like, how you value yourself. You have to figure out what will motivate you. And for a lot of people, comparing yourself to other people, especially the best in the world, is actually going to take away from your motivation.
Right.
And it's going to make you scared.
And think about it this way, too. Like, again, that was Kevin's first training program. Brendan Burchard's done that for a decade.
Yeah.
And so it's just completely illogical, but our subconscious doesn't know that, so that's fire.
And also, give yourself, again, we always say, and we're going to talk about this in our next episode, we're going to talk about why fear chasing is so important, but it's not even the act of doing it. It's not the result. It's the act of doing it. The fact that you wrote the song, the fact that you wrote the poem, the fact that I did the online training program, that is the win.
Right.
Don't allow the result to stop you from trying to get another win. And I think a lot of people do that. So if you want to compare yourself to anybody, compare yourself to you 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. Because if you're not getting better than you used to be, then that's your problem. You don't have to worry about the people on Instagram. You have to worry about you.
Imagine if you could find Brendan Burchard's first training program.
Right.
And then compare to that.
Like Evan Carmichael's first video.
Oh, yeah.
10 years ago about Walt Disney. It was brutal.
It was brutal.
But look at him now.
Exactly. Look at him now.
So as I said, our next episode is going to be on why fear chasing is so important. I think that when it comes to fear, it's one of those things that if you don't ever face it, you'll never know that you're actually not afraid of the thing. Like, you'll never understand that you can get enough experience in any arena not to be afraid of it. It just takes practice, and it also takes why power. Why are you going to face your fears if there's not some guarantee of something you want on the other side? So we will talk about that. I guess I will probably have more examples than you because I'm afraid of more things than you.
I'm afraid of some stuff, though. So
Well,
I'll bring some.
Bring some stuff.
We'll talk about it. I'll be vulnerable.
You better be. If you're not, you can get right out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this, and we will talk to you on Wednesday.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.